What's up, enthusiasts? It's my pleasure to finally introduce you to Rusty Dagger, the solo adventure zine game. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and check us out on social media at Table Salt Gaming Designs. Alright, back to Rusty Dagger. Rusty Dagger is a solo adventure zine game inspired by choose your own adventure games of the past and one of my most favorite board games of all time, Hero Quest. And though a lot of elements have been taken from those types of systems, Rusty Dagger has its own unique mechanics that I'm sure you guys will enjoy. A miniature representing your hero, a collection of enemy or monster miniatures, and 5 to 6 pieces of scatter terrain. You'll also need dice, counters, something to write with, and of course, the Rusty Dagger booklets. Oh, and don't forget your character sheet for your custom created hero. The narrative element of Rusty Dagger will place your hero in the adventure. It may read something like this. After hours of hiking through the sage woods, you finally reach your destination. Standing before you is a massive sequoia tree with ancient markings carved throughout its trunk. You see a narrow opening leading deep into the tree. Tempted by what the wood elves that used to inhabit this area could have left behind, you bravely make your way into the sequoia tree. So that would be the introduction to an adventure. Gameplay of Rusty Dagger revolves around 2 types of challenges: narrative challenges, combat challenges. A narrative challenge would go something like this. You notice lines of silk webbing lining the floor as if it were some sort of tripwire narrative challenge. Carefully make it past the webbing tripwire. Challenge rating 8. This means your character will need to roll an 8 or higher on 2d6. In parentheses, you'll see the subtrait. Whatever subtrait is in the parentheses, you can use that modifier to boost your 2d6 roll. In this situation, it's survival. So it'll be 2d6 plus survival. Then, depending on your roll, you'll have an outcome. If you pass the challenge, the next line of text could read something like this. Making sure not to touch the web, you make your way safely past it. But you're just as likely to fail. And if you do, the text could read something like this. As you watch your every step, you fail to notice webs at eye level and walk face first into one. A thick mass of webbing covers your face. Then you'll be faced with some sort of penalty. In this situation, you'll gain 1 disadvantage until the end of the first round of combat. This would bring us into a combat challenge. The adventure booklet will tell you everything you need to know about the combat challenge, from the types of enemies you will be facing to the terrain that you should set up in the room, and if the terrain will be randomly placed or if it will have designated placement. It'll also tell you if you have a basic deployment or a specific deployment. Now, let's see how to handle a combat challenge in Rusty Dagger. Rusty Dagger's combat tile has a unique system for deploying terrain and models. On the board, you'll see rows numbered from 1 to 6 and columns numbered from 1 to 10. To determine where terrain will go, you will roll a d6 and a d10. In this example, we'll put 1 piece of terrain in the first row, 4th column. Simple as that. And for each piece of terrain that you need to place, you will do the same thing, rolling 1 d6 and 1 d10 to determine the location of the terrain. Now, since I like doing custom designs, I'm going to use my custom board. Sorry, the numbers are a little hard to see, but it should be sufficient for you to tell what's going on. We're going to lay out the terrain, and then we'll come back with the placement for our models. Now that our terrain's placed, we need to deploy our enemies and our heroes. To deploy your hero and any companions, you'll roll a single d6, one roll for your hero, and one roll for your companion. And you'll do the same for your enemies, except you'll deploy them in the 10th column. Here's a great example. Now we already have an enemy in this space. So when this happens, you'll deploy an enemy one space up. But as you can see, we already have a piece of terrain in that space. So the enemy will then get placed in front of that. And that is how you deploy terrain and models. To set up the initiative bag with initiative tokens, simply take 3 tokens of one color and 3 tokens of a different color. Place them in the bag. Shaking your bag up. To start the combat round, simply draw a token out of the bag. This blue token represents the player, so I can select either my hero or my companion to be activated. I'll choose my companion. My companion has movement of normal, which means he can move up to 5 spaces. He also can take a second action now, but he can't repeat the action he used before. He's not adjacent to any enemies. He'll end his activation. All right, another pool. This time, I'll activate my hero. Her longbow can target an enemy up to 8 spaces away, and she has a clear line of sight to the enemy, because she can draw a line from the center of her square directly to the center of the target square without any interruption. When performing a range attack with a hero or a companion, roll 2d6 and add the hero's archery modifier. Enemies defending against a hero's attack will simply roll their action dice to defend. In this example, the spider swarm action dice is a d6 and they receive +2. Our hero rolls a natural 12. Regardless of any result the spider swarm would have rolled, this is a natural success, and the hero will deal 1 wound. This green dice will be used to represent wounds. This time, I've drawn an enemy's initiative token. I'm going to activate the nearest enemy to a player's model. The spider swarm will use its first action to move. Then, if it is adjacent to a player's model, it will attack with its second action. When defending against an enemy's attack, roll 2d6 and add the model's brawn modifier. Because the companion has a brawn of 0, the 2 attack scores are equal, but this gives the defender the benefit, and he blocks the attack. Continuing play, the next initiative token drawn is a player's token. So I will now activate the companion The companion already being adjacent to an enemy can make an attack. When attacking with a hero or companion, roll 2d6 and add the model's swordsmanship modifier. The companion lands the attack. This deals the spider swarm 1 wound, totaling the spider's health, removing it from game. Drawing another enemy initiative token, we move the next enemy into position, and with its second action, it performs an attack. Drawing the last enemy initiative token from the initiative bag. The spider swarm is activated, it moves, and makes an attack. This time, the spider swarm manages to deal a wound to our companion. With all the initiative tokens drawn from the bag, the combat round ends. We'll collect all of the initiative tokens from the table and we'll move into the interlude phase to determine if the combat challenge is over or if another combat round will be played. During the interlude, check to see if all the enemies have been defeated, if you have completed tasks, and if there are any special rules, you would apply them now. Because there are enemies still on the combat tile, I place all the tokens back in the initiative bag and start a new round. Now that you've seen how combat works in Rusty Dagger, I'll speed the video up from here so you can see the rest of this combat challenge. I urge you to watch this video in its entirety because at the end of the combat challenge, I'll have a few words to close out the video. So that was the introduction to Rusty Dagger. Now you know about the narrative challenges and the combat challenges. And you know that you'll be playing through an adventure story. You'll come across loot, companions, various enemies. Welcome to the world of Rusty Dagger.